The case of Danny Rolling is connected to a series of murders that occurred in 1990 in Gainesville, later known as the Gainesville Ripper murders. Over the course of several days in August 1990, 5 young people connected to the University of Florida were murdered inside their apartments. The victims were Christina Powell, 17 years old, Sonja Larson, 18 years old, Krista Hoyt, 18 years old, Tracy Pauls, 23 years old, and Manuel Tabawada, 23 years old. These murders caused widespread fear across Gainesville because the attacks happened inside the victims' homes during the night. Investigators later determined that the same offender was responsible for all 5 murders. Rolling was eventually arrested, confessed to the killings, and was later sentenced to death. Danny Rolling was born on May 26, 1954, in Shreveport. His childhood was marked by serious family conflict and reports of abuse. His father, James Rolling, worked as a police officer and was described in several reports as having a violent temper. Family members later said the household environment involved frequent arguments and physical violence. Rolling reportedly witnessed his father abusing his mother, Claudia Rolling, and sometimes experienced violence himself. As he grew older, he struggled with emotional and behavioral problems. During his teenage years, he began committing minor crimes such as theft and burglary, and these offenses eventually led to several arrests. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, he spent periods in prison for robbery and burglary. His life became increasingly unstable, and by the late 1980s, he was moving frequently and continuing to commit crimes. Louisiana murders before Gainesville. Before the Gainesville murders, Rolling committed another violent crime in Shreveport in November 1989. In that case, he murdered 3 members of the same family: Tom Grissom, his daughter Julie Grissom, and his grandson Sean Grissom. Investigators later connected these killings to Rolling through forensic evidence. The crime scene showed similarities to the later murders in Florida, including forced entry and violent attacks inside the victim's home. These murders were not immediately linked to Rolling at the time, but after his arrest in Florida, authorities were able to confirm that he was responsible. This meant that the total number of victims connected to Rolling's crimes was at least 8 people. First Gainesville murders. The first Gainesville murders occurred during the night of August 23rd to 24th, 1990. The victims were Christina Powell and Sonja Larson, 2 young women who were living together in an apartment near the University of Florida. Investigators later determined that the attacker entered the apartment through a sliding glass door. The 2 victims were attacked inside the residence and killed during the night. Their bodies were discovered the next day, and police immediately realized that the crime was extremely violent. The investigation began with interviews of neighbors, forensic examination of the apartment, and collection of physical evidence. The murders quickly became a major news story, and students across Gainesville began to worry about their safety. Second Gainesville murder. On August 25, 1990, another student named Krista Hoyt was murdered in her apartment. She was 18 years old and had recently begun attending the University of Florida. Investigators determined that the killer had entered her apartment during the night in a similar way to the previous crime. The discovery of a 3rd victim confirmed that the city was dealing with a serial offender. Media coverage expanded rapidly, and the unknown attacker began to be referred to as the Gainesville Ripper. Authorities warned students to lock doors and windows and avoid walking alone at night. Police patrols increased around campus housing areas, while detectives worked to gather evidence that could identify the suspect. Final Gainesville murders. The last 2 murders occurred on August 27, 1990. The victims were Tracy Pauls, a 23-year-old bank employee, and Manuel Tabawada, her roommate who had recently graduated from the University of Florida. Investigators believe the killer entered their apartment during the night. Unlike earlier attacks, this time the offender encountered a male resident, and evidence suggested that a struggle occurred. Despite resistance, both victims were killed. When these murders were discovered, the entire city of Gainesville went into a state of panic. Many students temporarily left the area, some classes were disrupted, and local authorities increased security measures throughout the community while investigators searched for the person responsible. Investigation, arrest, and outcome. After the murders, police conducted a large investigation involving forensic evidence, witness interviews, and cooperation between different law enforcement agencies. During this time, Danny Rolling was arrested for an unrelated robbery in Florida, Evidence collected during the Gainesville investigation eventually linked him to the murders. Additional evidence, and later confessions, confirmed his involvement. Rolling later pleaded guilty to the 5 Gainesville murders in court. In 1994, he received multiple death sentences for the crimes. After spending several years on death row, Danny Rolling was executed by lethal injection on October 25, 2006, at the Florida State Prison. The case remains one of the most well-known serial killer investigations connected to the city of Gainesville.